Hey, we should be recording. Craig?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Interstate Commission for EMS Personnel Practice, aka the EMS Compact. We are here for September 4th, 2024 Executive Committee, and I will call to order. I will remind people that are on the call that we encourage participation. We welcome everyone on here. We ask that the Executive Committee members join by camera where possible. And public attendance again is encouraged. Microphones will be muted by the executive director, and if there's a noise issue, he has authorization to mute individual members on the call. At any time, if a member wishes to speak, then we encourage you to use the raise hand feature, which is in the top bar of the Microsoft Teams app. If you are called upon, we encourage you to ask your name and or state your organization before speaking. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes or less. In case of background noise, again, our executive director is authorized to engage the mute function. So let's go ahead and determine a roll call, and we'll go to Secretary House for that.
Thank you very much, Chairman Kinney. I see Chairman Kinney on board. Yep. Obviously. Vice Chair Denny is excused. Myself, Secretary House present. I saw Member at Large Kaler, and our immediate past chair, Joe Schmieder, is Commissioner Vandeloon on the line. You do have a quorum.
And I just got to note, Commissioner Vandeloon is having some problems with Teams. Craig, if you give me a moment, continue on. I'm going to try to get him connected up.
Okay. I will find that we have a quorum. We'll allow Executive Director a minute to see if we can get Commissioner Vandeloon on. Thank you. Very good at turnout today. A lot of people on.
Okay, we'll see if that worked. And hopefully he can join. I know he's trying.
Okay. We can start with public comment, and I will open it to if anyone has any matters that are not listed on the posted agenda, which was on our website, was distributed to the Executive Committee in advance. Please use the raise hand feature, and I will recognize you for the additional public comment. Okay, seeing none, we will go on to old business. And I will go to our executive director, any old business. And I know you were unable to attend the last meeting, Donnie. I didn't know if you had any follow-up after you reviewed the minutes you'd like to cover.
Yes, sir. Just a couple of things. I'm going to scroll down. One of the action items at the last meeting was to send a letter with some public comment. So a copy of the letter is in the board book. We did submit public comment on docket ED 2024 OPE 0050. And that was the proposed regulation of the Department of Education as it relates to Title IV funding changes. The letter, as you noted, was reviewed by the executive committee, and I did post that. I do have a confirmation of receipt, and so it is part of the public record.
Thank you.
The other area of follow-up is related to the privilege to practice code of conduct, and I believe we might come back to that either under my report or your report. We will be working with the Bylaws and Rules Committee at their next meeting. We just got those scheduled. And in addition, would probably recommend an opportunity for us to have the full commission consider that as a position paper, but we may want to cover that later in the agenda.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Reports, and I don't believe Commissioner Vandeloon has joined yet. Donnie, do you want to take a stab at the treasurer's report or want me to delay it?
You know what? Why don't we delay? I know he's actively trying to get in. And if he doesn't, I'm prepared to give that in his absence.
Okay. We do have in your packet is the August 2024 Executive Committee summary that was prepared after our last meeting. And we usually will take a motion to approve that and post that summary so that it's available for the public. So any corrections, modifications, or a motion to approve on this from the Executive Committee?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion to approve. I think that was Commissioner House.
Kaler, sorry.
Oh, well, sorry. Thank you. Is there a second?
I will happily second it, but also note that I was not present. So, but I believe I'm the only other one that can second that for you. So,
thank you, Commissioner. A second by Commissioner House. Any further discussion on the minutes? Any comments from any of the participants on the call? Any objection to adopting the summary and authorizing director to post that? We will show that as approved as our executive summary from the August 2024 meeting. Thank you. Getting to the chair's report, Donnie has some great updates. He has had some great connections. I know this month is going to be no different. We continue to gain traction. Donnie, well, actually several of us, I know I'll see Joe House as well. We'll be at EMS World Expo in Las Vegas next week. And we are briefing National Association of EMTs. Just a short brief. I'm doing that because Donnie is not in town yet. But he will be there at the conference for several days next week. So I think a lot of good visibility for us, and I'm pleased with the involvement that he's getting and the feedback and the networking we're having with the other national organizations. And so I would just lend my support to that. I can use this opportunity. Donnie and I always have our weekly call, and we kind of go through the nuts and bolts, fine line. And we wanted a clarification from the executive committee with regards to the code of conduct. I think we discussed it, and I know there's clear intent to get it to rules and bylaws so that way they can see if there's any applicable implementation that can be done within that structure. And I know we discussed whether we go ahead and release a position paper so that it is out there in the position of the compact. And I don't believe we took any clear action on that. And Donnie and I, upon discussion, felt like it would be nice if we could get this on the agenda for the full commission meeting in October. Because if they adopt the position paper, then that allows rules and bylaws to have a definitive item to review and see how it fits within our structural framework. And so I'm open to discussion from the executive committee on whether that seems like a reasonable approach, and then ultimately whether there's a motion to add that to the full commission agenda for October on the proposed code of conduct.
Vegas, Commissioner House, I think that sounds quite reasonable, and I would happily make a motion to include this within the agenda for the full commission in October.
Thank you, Commissioner House. There's a motion. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Kaler. I will happily second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaler with the second. And so we have that. Any further comments? I will lend.
Kenny,
yes.
Just a note, Commissioner Brad Vanderloon has been able to join. So, and then Mr. Secretary, if we could add him as a voting member.
You got it.
Okay. So we have the motion and the second to submit to the full commission in October the code of conduct that we considered at the last meeting. Any objections to that? It does have my support that I will note it will be sent on to the full commission. You're authorized to add that, Donnie. Thank you.
Thank you.
That would be my report there. We will do rules and bylaws next for a quick update, and then after that, I will catch Commissioner Vandeloon with the treasurer's report. So go ahead, Commissioner Schmieder.
Good afternoon, everyone. And this will be really quick. We didn't meet because the dates, the meeting invites ended, and we just realized it today. So we're back on schedule for the next 6 months. My apologies. And we'll have more to report at the next meeting. Sorry about that.
My inbox reflects that we now have meeting invites for it. So thank you, Donnie.
Always happy to clog the inboxes. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Vandeloon, glad you were able to get over the technical difficulties. Welcome. Would you like to give us a treasurer's report, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm doing it from my phone because I had to restart my computer. So pardon me when I put my phone way back.
Okay.
Because I'm half blind. The previous balance was $71,368.97. We had 3 debits, as you see there. And the subtotal was $56,546.54. We had a credit from the NREMT of $40,000 with our balance as of 9/1 of $96,546.54. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for the treasurer? Thank you, Commissioner Vandeloon. Appreciate it. Work group updates. The code of conduct, Donnie, we did not have any meetings since the last time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And patient data privacy, not patient, sorry, but privacy for data. Did that group meet?
It did meet. It was continued good discussion. I believe that they're making some good progress and considerations. What I anticipate is they too will probably have some recommendations that will be forwarded to the Rules and Bylaws Committee eventually for consideration on how we address that. The work group also did almost a line-by-line review of some of the conceptual rule and bylaw changes that the rule and bylaws are working through as it relates to data segregation, data protection, and it was well received. So obviously, not to take the place of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, but to look at it through the lens of data protection. And it was well received, well supported there, but I anticipate they'll have some future suggestions on different topics coming forward.
Thank you. Okay, and I think I do remember that now, so sorry about that. I think I was on that meeting. Appreciate the work there. I believe we're up to the executive director's report. Donnie.
Yeah, thank you so much. So obviously I missed last month's meeting because I was attending NMSAC in person, and that was a very good opportunity. And so that actual presentation was at the same time as the executive committee. The one thing I will note coming out of that meeting is that the work that we have to do around education sometimes feels insurmountable, but nevertheless, it's very important. So many of the members of the National EMS Advisory Council had questions about the compact and the function and the role of the compact. And it just goes back to, even though we've been doing this for 10 years, we have high changeover in our profession. We have relatively high rates of attrition, especially at leadership level. So I think that the importance of us doing education, getting information out there is absolutely vital. The information presented was well received. We had a lot of follow-up questions. I've had a number of follow-up meetings after that, but it still highlights that need. Moving on into other parts of the Executive Director report, as Craig noted, I will be at EMS World Expo next week. In my conflict of possible conflict disclosures, I will have multiple hats on there. But one of those is for the compact, and I will be attending the Joint National EMS Leadership Forum. And I'm also presenting a regulator's perspective on complaints and the state office. And I will probably have a joint hat on with that. They do have me noted in my official capacity for that presentation. So I'll be there doing that as well. Then a few upcoming events. I've been invited to attend the Interagency Fire Coordinating in-person meeting. And so that's with our Wildland Fire and Interagency Fire partners. That's coming up towards the end of the month, and I plan on being on there. I will be attending the Regional NASIMSO meeting for the Midwest, and so I have that trip coming up as well. And then in early October, we'll be attending the National Fire Academy Fire Summit, which actually includes a focus on EMS as well. So plan on attending those meetings in the upcoming few weeks. Our office phone is ringing more now than it has in the past. And that's both a positive and a bit of a negative. So more and more of our frontline EMS providers are utilizing the EMS Compact. In fact, I'm hearing about people utilizing this nearly on a daily basis. However, the number of calls coming in related to challenges is also increasing as well. So I think in the spirit of education, I would ask all of our commissioners and everyone online, work with your staff in your state to make sure that anyone front-facing understands the compact. I am receiving calls on a more frequent basis of people going under a clear compact function from a compact member state A into a compact member state B and getting incorrect information. And that is hurting potentially the compact, and it creates confusion. And so I'm reaching out to states and people as I get those in, but I would encourage you to do that. I'm happy to lead a training session for anyone in your state office. Just feel free to ask. So I would note that. Next is related to data connectivity. I did have a series of meetings, both in person and remote, with Envisage Technology. They are a data provider for Indiana, and they're in the bid process, I believe, for one or two more states. I do believe that we made very significant progress with them related to the API and the exchange of data. That's been a very significant hurdle to overcome, and so happy to report on that. Let's see, I had the opportunity to talk and discuss with Commissioner House of an interesting use case. And so Commissioner House, you are getting the Executive Director's Award for the edge cases, but thank you for bringing those forward. And you had yet another one. And if I just do a high level summary, it comes under the auspice of privilege to practice home state versus remote state. And so in quick summary, it was someone licensed in his state at one level. They became licensed at a higher level in another state, and then was going to try to utilize the privilege to practice at the higher level back in the state of Kansas. And the short answer to that is you can't do that, because a home state is defined as a state where you have a license, and a remote state is a state that you are not licensed in. And so this individual had two home states, but you can't utilize a higher license from one home state to overrule a home state license in another home state. And so again, one of these unique edge cases that came up, we worked through it. The privilege to practice is only recognized in remote states, by definition, a state that you're not licensed in. So Commissioner House, I hope I somewhat captured that from a high level summary, but thank you for that edge case. The other thing that is in discussion is related to, and I'm working with him actually on a paper on this, probably for our next meeting, but it's related to how we do multi-state verification. While the compact provides that immediate ability to practice, we certainly do encourage people to get licensed in their new state of residence. So that's something that we encourage, and we want to make that a straightforward process. One of the advantages that we have as a commission is we are called to work together through issues of commonality and licensure. And so we are looking at maybe a best practice document or some recommended best practices to help ease the friction when people actually want to get licensed in your state. And we're looking at ways that we can leverage the coordinated database for licensure validation, and also looking at ways that we can help smooth any friction that may exist and to expedite licensing between compact states, because we have common standards. So more to come on that. I again appreciate Joe for reaching out on that and for working on the initial framework of that as an opportunity for us to, again, work in a unified voice. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions. The work on our agreement with National Registry still continues to move forward, very positive. We are continuing to work with our federal partners on opportunities for closer collaboration, and that is continuing to progress well without any obstacles. So happy to stand for any questions.
Before I get to Commissioner Schmieder, just real quickly on the ACADIS end with Envisage, I want to comment. I want to thank Donnie. Both I had done a hard press kind of wake up call with them and was like, hey, our state is having impairment of function without this. And then Donnie's persistence with them, I think, is what has moved them into action. So I do acknowledge him for his work there. Commissioner Schmieder.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. 2 points. The first one would be, Donnie, maybe, and I'm thinking maybe over like the Christmas holidays, I think slowed down a little bit. Would it benefit us to have a 15-minute online Compact 101 right on our website? Someone would go, do a little PowerPoint and put a voice to it. I think that might help just get the word out a little bit easier out to people. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I welcome that. I think I need to look back. I think a few months ago, you gave some discretionary fund ability to me for that. I've actually quoted out what it would cost to get a video editor. I've got a lot of skills, but having a professional that can actually do the edits and put a video together, I think would be in the realm of just a few $100. And I think it'd be worth it to actually maybe put a video out that has that as a resource. And I think it'd be within the limit that I've got some discretion on. So I appreciate that.
And we might be able to get somebody to give it a half hour CE or something so that there's a benefit for someone to do it too. Yep. The other thing is, and I appreciate, and I, like you, I'm hearing the growth of the compact and more people interested in using it, and it benefits obviously the whole system. But I am concerned there are still states that are not submitting. And I just wonder, as an executive committee, when submitting data, I should say, when should we start going back to some of those states and saying, okay, what is your plan of correction? Because some of the original states still aren't submitting data. And this whole system, the whole compact, is based on the data. And I know going forward, we have a plan in place, and you know how to handle it. I don't know how we go backwards and try to encourage it. I think we've done. I know when I was sitting in Craig's seat, we were asking people and trying, and maybe it's now time that we have to put something officially in writing and start that path. So I just wanted to bring it up for some discussion. I'm not here to point the finger at any one person, but I think it's time. I saw in the report where there was progress made it with some states, and some states nothing. And so anyway, I'll stop at that.
One suggestion, and I had heard Donnie and our pre-session had heard some of your concerns, Commissioner Speeder, and I definitely do not disagree. I think you're absolutely spot on that we have some states that implemented the law and are not carrying out the law, and that's a concern. One of the things Donnie and I talked about, this is just more to create a pathway to express concerns, but doesn't address your overall suggestion that maybe the executive committee take action. But Donnie and I discussed, and he is going to investigate a ticket system where we may be able to submit challenges with the compact through the website, so that way, like sometimes people are saying, they apply to state X and say, hey, I have a privileged practice. State X says, we don't recognize the compact. We're like, state X, you're in the compact, you've adopted the law. Right now, Donnie, sometimes they reach out by phone, sometimes by email. We don't always track it as well as I'd like to. So I think with an online submission system, it makes it a little bit more accessible, and it could give us valuable data. As I reported to him, I understand Indiana, we have our data problem, and I did not take your comment as a challenge to us, Commissioner Speeder. I'm just using us as an example. But I think if I told Donnie, if at the end of the year he said we had 10 people from Indiana frustrated that they did not appear in the database, then that supports my argument. Is it statistically significant? No, but 10 people went out of their way to say that. And I believe that would help me sell why we have to get our data in. And so I think that's one item that we're looking at for ability to track some of these challenges. But I'll open the floor, first of all, to the executive committee members, if any of them would like to comment on Commissioner Schmieder's thoughts on states that don't have a data plan and that are appearing kind of stagnant in the implementation.
Well, Craig, this is Joe House, and I'm going to agree with the comments previously stated by Commissioner Schmieder. The database itself is the power of this commission and is a huge component to it. And I think we all acknowledge the fact that there are challenges that are going to occur in trying to get this across. But I think it's finding out if there's a challenge being experienced or if this is truly just a delay. And the commission as a whole taking the stance that we can work through challenges, but if this is just flat, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain or whatever, I think as a commission, we need to step up and say, no, that's not acceptable. We're completely okay if you can communicate a challenge to us and kind of incrementing forward. But I think we are getting very close to needing to take a hard stance.
Any other executive committee members that would like to comment?
And Craig, if I could, just one thing. What I'm thinking in my mind, is it time to officially from the executive committee to a state and say, here's this issue, here's this challenge. Would you please provide us within 30 days or whatever time frame, I'm just making up, a plan of correction on how you're going to move this project forward. I know that I do that a lot with education programs and EMS providers where I see a challenge within my own state, and it kind of draws a line in the sand. We're going to keep working with you, but now you got deliverables. You're going to start meeting them or tell us why you're not. So I'm not looking to beat up a state, but I think it's just time that we start being more concrete about what we're asking for.
If there are any non-executive committee, but commissioners from states that are on, if you'd like to use the raise hand feature, if you have any comments on this issue, we would welcome it. Or any public membership, you could also use the raise hand feature and I will acknowledge you. I have a suggestion to the executive committee, and I wonder if this would work. Would it, for our next meeting in October, would it make sense? Looks like we meet on October 2nd. Would it make sense to have myself with the executive director do an assessment of any state that is non-compliant with a recommendation to the executive committee? So that way, then, if we make the recommendation that they submit a compliance plan within 30 days, then as an example, then the executive committee could sign off on that, and then there's the full force of that. Does that sound like a possible solution? Or do we feel like we have enough today to take a more affirmative action as of today?
So let me say, as a non-voting member, we've been kicking this can for quite a while. I think I would suggest we just move forward with it, but I'm also okay waiting till next month too.
I think the reason why I suggested waiting, Joe, was just to make sure we had a list of the compliance. I know we always hate to single out people.
Sure.
But if there are states that we already have a plan, I wonder about tasking them with coming up with a plan if they've already been working with Donnie. Recognize Ray from National Registry.
Just one more point of thought is we're on the countdown of the second part of compliance, and that's the background checks. And you may want to consider how you do this by also looking forward towards that compliance piece of being part of the compact. Those are just my thoughts.
Thank you, Ray. Good insight. Yeah, we are 1 year away because I know we had to change our rulemaking, and we are just finalizing on September 25th, where it's actually codified on our background checks. So, yes, Commissioner Wilson.
And I'll just speak for my state because I know we're one of the states that are not compliant with this. But on the flip side of this is I don't think we've ever gotten the answer regarding we just simply can't do an API with our current system. And for us to do, the registry doesn't have the tools in place for us to do any other type of import besides API. So, I think those are some of the considerations that we need to take as some of those technological constraints.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. And I think, and at least in my mind, I interpret as I believe Donnie's comments, there may be states that have stated, and then we just need to determine, is there anything we can do, as Commissioner House said, to facilitate that? It sounds like you've already investigated it. But yeah, we can take a deep dive into that. I do think there are states, you're at the table, you're attending today. There are states that we have radio silence out of, and that's a big concern. Yes, Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, just Pennsylvania's one as well that's not compliant. We are certainly working on a couple of vendors, and I think we've got some work on the background checks as well. But I would welcome that kind of letter. I would see that as a help for me, just as we work through standard procurement processes and things like that. I like that idea.
Chair Kenny, may I just add a comment to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Martin, thank you for that. We don't want to be adversarial, but if I put my last hat on, that many of you wear right now as state director, sometimes it feels like we are at a junction that in our capacity as state director, we just can't overcome. And sometimes having a letter that actually says you're out of compliance with this state or federal mandate, and you're out of compliance with the law, sometimes a letter like that tends to open up new channels for getting things done and funding and discussions. And so, you know, I would certainly hope that in a spirit of camaraderie, a letter like that would be received as it's our obligation, but as you noted, Anthony, to also say, and by the way, here's another thing in your toolkit to hopefully help you get through procurement, contracting, and get through bureaucracy of getting change.
Yeah, thanks. Not that I'm looking to the executive committee of the commission to do my job, but an extra tool can never hurt.
Yeah, I appreciated those comments. Yeah.
Commissioner Burrows.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I know South Dakota is also one that's partial compliance, and we have talked to Donnie about this. And just an update, we are launching our new system this month, and once that system launches, we will have the ability to be in compliance. Just an update on that.
Thank you.
That's the best news of the day.
Yeah, we're very excited.
And I will say I appreciate everyone's forthrightness on speaking up. And I agree with you, Commissioner Martin. That's why I said if I have 10 people that complain we aren't in the database, I'd be happy, because that is still 10 people supporting why we need to be in there, and we do need to be. That is part of what we agreed to when we joined the compact. Any further comments? Maybe I am too conservative, but is there a motion from the executive committee, or in the absence of motion, then I'm going to direct our executive director to create a survey on the compliance with both the criminal background check and also data compliance and any other requirements that are open. And he and I will come up with a plan for the October meeting to present, and we'll have different tiers that people are in, and we will recommend action at the October 2nd executive committee meeting, unless there's a motion from the executive committee to a different aspect. Okay. Okay, then that is how we will proceed. If anyone has any feedback between now and then, certainly reach out. You know, Donnie's receptive, I'm receptive, all the executive committee. We will be glad to speak with you on that.
And Commissioner Kinney, I know I
Yes.
said I was done. I just saw in my notes 2 additional very quick points. One is I wanted to note that the physical therapy compact just this past week crossed to number 39, so Alaska. And so Alaska joined the PT compact, and that's significant because that's the first occupational licensing compact for Alaska. So that's exciting, and it opens up doors. But also the PT compact, which started after the EMS compact, has 39 member states. And if you hear me speak at these conferences, one of the themes that I'm speaking on is EMS as a medical profession. We need to make sure that we are not in any way disadvantaged or disenfranchised from what all the other medical professions are doing. And frankly put, if a nurse can practice in almost 50 states on a compact privilege, if a physical therapist can now practice in 39, we know that EMS has workforce issues. We need to take every step we can to increase our number from 24 up to 50. And so that's important. So I just want to bring that up for awareness. And then the second thing, and I bring this up for high-level awareness and nothing else at this point. I did have an interesting phone call from a stakeholder related to residency requirements for state licensure. And while it's not a direct compact issue per se, it was a concern that was brought up. And let me just explain this a little bit. The concern was related to if a state required an individual EMT or paramedic to be a resident of that state before they could obtain a license to practice in that state. And the stakeholder, which is an attorney, not one of our attorneys, but is an attorney, brought up a concern that that could be a violation of what was established under Piper v. New Hampshire, which related to actually a lawyer seeking to become part of the bar in New Hampshire. And because they were not a resident of New Hampshire, their license was denied, and that ultimately went to the Supreme Court, and it was found to be a constitutional violation. And so I don't know if we have any states that still require residency as a condition of licensure, but note that at least a stakeholder or a group of stakeholders believes that that might be something that's out there within the EMS community, and that is on the radar. So I'm just passing that along as a friendly public service note. You may want to consider what your licensure rules are, work with your state AG's office, and have your own internal conversations on that. I'm not aware of any states that do require that. Just passing that along as an interesting conversation.
Interesting. Thank you. I think, and we had a nice discussion there. I think we were open to any questions for our chair's report, excuse me, the executive director's report. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on Donnie's report? Okay, we will move to the National Registry report with Ray on the NEMSKID update.
Let me thank you for having me, Mr. Chair, Executive Committee members. Let me first apologize. I just noticed there's an error in the submitted report. There are 4 states missing from the latest API submission date list on the left-hand side. Virginia, West Virginia, Nevada, and South Dakota, even though South Dakota's date is in June of their last submission, they are, for some reason, not in the list. I will correct the report and get it to Donnie if that is acceptable.
Yes.
So projects for NEMSKID, for improvements, enhancements, those type of things have been slotted for or have been targeted to start in Q4 of 2024. So being in the last month of Q3, we should start to see some projections as to when in Q4 that EMS ID as a primary identifier that should kick off. And I am assuming that the other, at least 2 of the other 3 in the list, the National Registry number, EMS ID number showing up in the NEMSKID, and the National Registry data tab being populated, I think those will all go together. The report functionality may be Q1 of 25, but we are getting closer. I know that will help with some states that lack the Social Security number. And we do have a state that's actually, Delaware on the BLS side is submitting National Registry numbers and getting an EMS ID number back and populating their license management system. So we have progress. We're looking closer to a solution on a couple enhancements or projects for NEMSKID. The other thing kind of we've already discussed, or the commission has discussed, is the onboarding in those states that are not currently submitting data. I will work with Donnie on that list, and they do vary in, you know, what status that they are in. Some are, you know, would be their vendor is just trying to overcome an obstacle, and it could be turned on at any time, although that obstacle has been several months now. So, but anyway, my point is I can work with Donnie, and we can, at least as far as the NEMSKID reporting, develop a current status before the next executive committee meeting. And hopefully that would feed into any sort of corrective action that the states would be putting together. So barring any questions, that's all I have for today.
Any question? Commissioner House.
Thank you. Hey, Ray, I know within MSKID there's a functionality for education records. Do we have a build out as to when we could maybe start to see that being used or being populated and such? And maybe it's because we're in the heart of our renewal at the moment of being able to go out and check that kind of stuff. But I know there's a placeholder within MSKID for it. It would be great added functionality, I think, for our system if we had that ability to be able to share that information as well.
No, that's good. There isn't a current project written up for that, but this is about the right time to get that submitted so that we could get it, hopefully, you know, it would be 2025, probably before we could get that implemented. And I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I don't know that it's a tough challenge. I think it's more of connecting the data and turning it on, because I believe that would come from registry data. So what I can do is research it and build a sort of a request from the executive committee for that enhancement and report back at the next meeting.
Oh, I'd appreciate that. We're happy to be a beta site if you need a state's information as well. So,
yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Ray and National Registry? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it as always. Moving on to new business, our executive director did put in a request to approve the 2025 meeting dates so that we can get those out. I want to thank him. It's displayed there. He did a thorough job at looking at national committees. Before I turned over to him, one of the decisions that we're recommending, and we kind of made a pre-decision, but we're wanting the exec committee to adopt, was the first of the month we were hitting both FICMs and NEMSKID alternating, which meant Donnie was out of commission a lot of times. Commissioner House was as well. And so we've tried to take into factoring. We know we cannot prevent every conflict, but he did do a lot of work on this. Donnie.
Yeah, thank you. So this is threading the needle of what we know today. You know, ironically, I did try to get hard, fast dates for the FICMs and NUMSAC. They have not finalized that for next year. Historically, for the past decade, it's been like that first week of the quarter. I hope that continues on. So we've shifted more towards the second week. You will see a few exceptions of this due to holidays, and we also try to consider some of the nationally known conferences and meeting dates below. We did look at the National Registry's board meetings because that takes a number of us out. And so this is what we have. And if possible, would love a vote to adopt this. or if anyone sees a major conflict, and by major conflict, I mean something that takes out multiple commissioners, then bring that up. I know it may be individual things. It would just not be possible to accommodate that for 24 states. But if there's something that's known that would take out multiple attendees, please bring that up.
We did struggle with the Q4 meeting for the full commission on that one, because November's such you have a holiday, and then other like National Registry meets, which as a few of us attend. And so if you notice, we actually have the executive committee bumped an hour earlier, 2 to 3, and then 3 to 5, we would follow with the full commission. So it doesn't give a lot of time to refer, but most time to do a full commission agenda, you need notice anyways. So it wouldn't matter if there's a few weeks or just before. With that, I will open it up to the executive committee if they have any comments.
Craig, just a quick question. I see the May 21st date, knowing that we're meeting as a full commission on the 13th, which seems to be a very large gap for the executive committee from April 2nd until the 21st. I know historically we've ended up trying to have an extra executive committee meeting just prior to the full commission meeting. Would that perhaps make more sense at either the tail end of April, giving us enough time that if we did have something that comes up last minute, we still have enough time to publish it for an agenda for the full commission. And then,
yeah, I think
I'm almost okay being a little longer after, but
yeah. Thoughts, Donnie? To me, it might make sense. I don't think we considered that, like looking at the last week of April or something like that. Any thoughts, Donnie?
Yeah, I'm looking up right now. So let's see here. That first, we could potentially do May 7th, noting that there's a potential that we'll run into, NIMSAC FICAMs on that date, but we could overcome that and move it to May 7th.
Looking at
I have no problem with either date. It's just it seemed a very large gap, and so.
I think you're right, and then I also look, and then my question would be whether we need the May 21st one, then right after. So we may just want to switch May 21st with May 7th, then, and then as you noted, Donnie, I think we could work around if you needed to be at NIMSAC or FICAMs.
And the other thing that I actually toyed with was, would we want to try to do an EC meeting at NISMSO before the actual full commission meeting? I know a lot of us have multiple hats on and very tight schedules, though.
I would say let's not schedule the pre-one till we see, and I know we have NISMSO's president on the call, but as we get closer, if we think we need one, then we can try to get that posted.
Would you like me to move the May 21st to May 7th?
I would suggest if there's a motion to approve that we amend with the switching from May 21st to May 7th for the executive committee meeting.
Commissioner Kaler, I'll motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaler with a motion. Is there a second?
House, I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner House. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or concerns with the meeting dates as proposed? I do want to, if any of the commissioners are on, this would impact you either participating like you are today, but also would impact you with full commission meetings dates. If anyone has any concerns, please use the raise hand feature and we can consider that as well.
And while you're waiting, Mr. Chair, just a
Yes.
clarity, I believe the motion, just to clarify the record, it's motion to approve as amended with the date change.
Right. Thank you. Okay, any objection? We have two of them. Any objection? And we will, any abstentions from the meeting date from the executive committee? We will show it as approved. Thank you. You can work on getting those posted as amended. Okay, we are up to any other new business that we have.
I have none.
Not seeing any. We have partner organization updates. Glancing at that, I see Dia Gainer's on. Do you have anything from a NASIMSO perspective?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other national organizations on here? If you'd like to give an update, please use the raise hand feature and we'll recognize you for a quick update.
Mr. Chair, not to put him on the spot, I believe we do have Howard on the line, or Howard was on the line. Howard has been appointed from NAMT. I believe he just jumped off, but he's been appointed by NAMT, so we're glad to have him.
He thought you were going to call on him, or I was, so he ran while he could. Any other? Okay, I think we are at the end of our meeting. We have future executive committee dates will be on October 2nd and November 6th for this year. And then the future commission date is October 9th. We do have elections. And again, Commissioner House is coordinating those. So if you have an interest in the chairperson position, the at-large position, and the treasurer position, any three of those, then contact Commissioner House. The vice chair and commissioner and the secretaries are not up for re-election. Okay, thank you, everyone. And we will see you either, if not sooner, we will see you on October 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you all.